Hey everyone, you are listening to Beyond the Ring podcast, and today we are going to take a look at the SummerSlam 2013 pay per view. So, when we take a look at this card, this is not a very stacked card, or this is not a very SummerSlam kind of card where we expect a great match or something. Because, frankly, when we take a look at this card, we see two of the biggest matches that's the only selling point that this SummerSlam had, and that's CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar and John Cena versus Daniel Bryan. Both of the matches at that time was very kind of crowd favorite and very expected, and till this day I would say that one of the I mean best matches they had produced, one of the best two matches that they had produced in that period, in that period of time, I can say that. And apart from that, when we take a look at the show as an overall, because we don't say show is a very good or a excellent pay-per-view just on the basis of one match or two match. It is calculated on the basis of the whole pay-per-view card. And when we take a look at this card, as I said, this is like some matches, some average, above average matches are also added into it. And but uh, but uh, but but I want to really appreciate WWE for what they did at that time. I can say that when I watched this pay per view, I literally had a feeling that when I was going to the pay per view, that this is a two match pay per view, and other matches would be kind of a very undercard would be very bad. But when they actually transitioned this matches and positioned these matches into like they first had the match. I'm not talking about the pre-show, but onto the main card. I'm saying they had Kane versus Bray Wyatt, and then they had the Cody Rhodes versus Damian Sandow. And when we begin with kind of a gimmick match, it's always a kind of a question mark what we are gonna see kind of thing. And I can say that I commend WWE that they actually began with this Bray Wyatt match. I'm not just saying because Bray Wyatt's released. I know that there's so much feeling right now going for Bray Wyatt. I'm not just saying for the sake of it, but I would say that they opened it well, and then they go to the kind of undercard. But when I speak the undercard as well, it's not an average. It's not an average match, I would say. All the matches that this show had ranged from very good to, I mean, excellent, I would say. Yeah, certainly, I would say. And if you watch this, you can be pretty much clear about that. And the way they positioned this show, I mean, the way they had the matches laid out, that was the part that WWE did very well. And I actually, that's the point that this show was enjoyable. I would say that this is not the SummerSlam 2016 or the, I can say, SummerSlam 02 2002. I'm speaking. No way. But when we see when we watch this pay per view, this is not a bad pay per view or something. This is a good pay per view. This is a good show, and this was a good SummerSlam, I would say. And the fact that this they had the two of the biggest matches at that time as well as this time. If you speak, this match is played out in 2021. We can be sure that this is sold out. CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar is still a sold out match, and John Cena versus Daniel Bryan is still a sell out match, I would say. And I mean, at that point, I would say, for that thing, I really wanted to commend WWE for doing this. And I had my opinion. So we get into the one-on-one matches, one-by-one matches actually. So we start off with the pre-show, which had Rob Van Dam versus Dean Ambrose for the United States Championship. And this wasn't a bad match. This was an average match where we expected kind of a result like the Shield were healed that time. Rob Van Dam was very over, because of the obvious reasons, because people loved Rob Van Dam, and the crowd was hot at that time. Rob Van Dam, and especially and for the pre-show, I would say this was a good match, and this was if you say in terms of wrestling and in terms of predictability, it's kind of average, I would say, but the card actually looks kind of good because you are hyping up for the main card, having Rob Van Dam place onto the pre-show. It's a good thing that WWE. I'm not just saying all the good things only, but I'm saying just what I am feeling. And you can have any opinions on the comment section below about this pay per view, and it's my opinion. So that is it. So pre-show, Rob Van Dam versus Dean Ambrose. This match, as I said, average match, and speaking as an average match as well, this had a pace, and in the end of this match, we saw Shield coming up, and Shield kind of interfering and kind of distracting Rob Van Dam to not able to perform that 5 star frog splash and his maneuvers, and he had that Van Dam's leg drop as well. Very good moment. And crowd was really, really hot at this match. And we saw Big Show and Mark Henry coming out for the help of Rob Van Dam because Shield came out. So kind of a good heel versus a babyface dynamics that was played out. The match itself, as I said, began well, and it was going well. I would say pretty well, as I said, and. But in the end it got into an average mode because Shield come up, the whole interference got into thing, and the entrance music and all of Mark Henry and Big Show kind of distracted from this matchup, and that doesn't felt like kind of important for this match, as I so it kind of escalated into an average category, as I said. So that was it where Shield actually escaped the ring before Henry and Big Show catch them, and Ambrose, Reigns, Rollins leave the Staples Center with their gold intact, uh, but an immediate at the end of this match, RVD was going to finish this match as he climbed the ropes and came off with his signature 5 star frog splash before he could get a pin on Dean Ambrose. Roman Reigns delivered a great spear, a vicious spear, you can say, to the challenger, and had a disqualification, and Shield left. So the decisive, not having a decisive ending, kind of hurt this match very, very well. So that actually escalated, as I said, into this match as an average match. So we get into this main card, and the main card opens up with the Ring of Fire match between Kane and Bray Wyatt. So this was also a predictable match, if you see, because Kane at that time wasn't very at the top, booked very top on top and all, and Bray Wyatt was a developing character, and he needed that desperate victory to further his character, to develop his character, to mold his character into a new level, and defeating Kane would be a great accomplishment for Bray Wyatt at that time. And so this was kind of an inferno match, you can say, but kind of a different kind of thing that they had set up, where they had the huge, I mean, for the parts of the rings covered with the rods, where the fire would come up, and we have Eric Rowan and Luke Harper as well, on the ring side. So they had their bit of shenanigans, kind of distracting Kane that was well, and this was nice to see the match. I mean, this wasn't very bad, I would say. As much people say this was one of the worst match, I don't see you will say that this is from the pure emotion that Bray Wyatt released. That's why maybe that would be there. I can say that. I'm not saying that that's not there. But when you see this match, if you watch this, you ain't be bored while watching this match, I would say. And the result is very surprising, or it's a ending that Bray Wyatt's character and their whole story that they told was good, even though the interference and all was did so it's pro wrestling, guys. It happens, and it's a story that they told there, and that's a family that they are speaking about. So they would help Bray Wyatt for that. So in the end, we saw they actually covered the this I mean this the mat onto the fire, and they actually climbed up. And before that, we actually saw some clever things where they used fire extinguisher to kind of put out the fire. But Cain, when actually something happens, something very some kind of hits into the mat, it actually blows up. So they weren't able to get into the ring. Finally, they had, as I said, a mat of sorts into the fire, and they actually climbed up and they had the 3-on-1 advantage. And finally, they set up for Bray Wyatt, the sister Abigail, and they hit that, and that was it. And the Wyatt family, you can say, is victorious because they had a major help on Bray Wyatt at that point. This was not a bad match, I would say. This was a really nice match, a really fun match. You can look after if you clearly watch this, and if you have nostalgic kind of thing, because Bray Wyatt is released right now, this would be a very good memory to see, because how he evolved. And there's a major thing history related to this, because this was one of the first in-ring debut, or the first pay-per-view match, or the first match of Bray Wyatt. And they had Eric Rowan and Luke Harper action and all in the Monday Night Raw episode, but Bray Wyatt's first debut match was kind of this match. And so this, as a debut match, this was not the bad match or something. I can certainly see that, for me, I would say. And getting into the second match, which was Cody Rhodes versus Damian Sandow. And this match, I didn't had any liking to this match. And when I watched through, Damian Sandow at this time was the Money in the Bank holder, and he had that leather kind of a special kind of Money in the Bank, which looks really cool if you see. And very different kind of Money in the Bank, if you look. And that's really looking nice actually. And Cody Rhodes at this time, he was good at wrestling at this time as well. And I would say that he had the wrestling skills, but he didn't had that it factor. They didn't pushed it, and the creatives didn't have an idea to improve Cody Rhodes upon into the main event level superstar or something. So he remained like that kind of a green character, and then he turned it around to the after many years into Stardust character. And talking about this match was had a simple story where Sandow actually controlled Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes had his comeback, and he tries for the disaster kick first time, but he didn't got it. And second time is a charm, because he kicked that. And he then actually had the momentum, and momentum cut short as he missed a corner charge on his friend and tag team partner, who Damien Sandow was, and crashed shoulder first in the steel post. Sandow then grabbed ropes off Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, and appeared moments away from the victory, and escaped when Rhodes escaped and delivered the crossroads. And that is it for the victory for Cody Rhodes. So a basic match. I would say this was an average match, certainly, and this was one of the weak match in this show. And next match was one of the important match, and I would say I was really loving, man, when there was the World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Championship. And if you ask me which is the best kind of combination, I would certainly be saying WWE Championship and World Heavyweight Championship. And I mean Universal Championship and WWE Championship is good and all, but this had a different kind of vibe. That big gold belt, I really miss that belt, man, and that only can replicate that with the World Heavyweight Championship and into World Heavyweight Championship. And there's nothing, no kind of kind of a other title word to have that onto that big gold belt. Had a great lineage from the NWA days. So I mean, if they can bring up in any point of some years or something this World Heavyweight Championship, that would be great, man. I don't think so. I may be wrong. Certainly because it's already titles established, main titles. So I don't see that. But it is one of the things that I very very appreciate that WWE had. So Christian versus Alberto Del Rio for the World Heavyweight Championship match. This was a great in-ring wrestling match. What a psychology that Christian and Alberto Del Rio had in this match. Alberto Del Rio really played out. He was not a very I mean, I thought about he was heel. In the match, he was certainly into the heelish character, but when the match ended, it was totally different. And Christian, the story of this match, as I want to say, is that Alberto Del Rio focused on the Christian's shoulder because Christian's shoulder was just surgically repaired, and so he was just recovered. So he had worked on Alberto Del Rio. Del Rio actually worked on Christian's shoulder quite a very lot. I mean, and Christian had the selling to the point, man. Very good in ring psychology, as I said, and he used different strikes to weaken that arm, and having that arm bar cinched in. Very high drama as well in this match, and he had the grit and determination, and had that emotions that he wanted to win the match. So there was also a story where maybe this would be the last chance for Christians for the championship opportunity, and that was and as we see this, if they would have changed the title Christian, it would have been not a bad decision as well. But then they actually decided upon to go with Alberto Del Rio, and Alberto Del Rio was a good champion, I would say. People don't appreciate him as a because of the things that he that the controversial things that he actually happened to be. And but man, there's also that's also so many wrestlers and all that had did before. I mean, Hulk Hogan and all, they already had done that. I mean, this type of things, I mean, I cannot say that this is the same thing that they did, but they have also did kind of other things, which is not a kind of thing that's used to should be doing by face of the company or something. But again, he was a very good champion, as I said, and Christian's selling, and Christian actually looked very good. And Alberto Del Rio looked very well as well, and Del Rio seized the opportunity and locked in the cross arm breaker in the finishing of this match with nowhere to go, and he has cinched in to a very tight position, and Christian finally tapped out, bringing to end of the match, which is a very good storytelling match. And I can really put this match into the top 15 or top 10 of the WWE matches, best at storytelling matches, I would say. This great in ring psychology, great match. And this match, as I actually missed about that if as I said, this SummerSlam card, even if you do take a look at this card, this doesn't look like $1 million or something, but the in-ring wrestling, the actions and all was so perfect. And this wasn't I mean, they actually were kind of putting a very importance into the pro wrestling side of things as well. And that was overall seen into this pay-per-view very prominently, I would say. So certainly we were expecting bigger things into the show to come, but as of this moment, this was one of the best match. If not these John Cena, Daniel Bryan, or CM Punk, Brock Lesnar was, and this would have been one of the best match, I would say, one of the best match of that show. And finish was really good, very good. And Natalia versus Brie Bella was next match. So this was a point where women's wrestling was not very into that high gear, and it was still in a very initial stage, still very developing. And Natalia was just came out from NXT, I guess, and Brie Bella had just debuted as well at that time. So they had the match. It was just normal, I would say. And bad. Yeah, and I would say this was way bad than the Cody Rhodes Damian Sandow match. I didn't like this match. Natalia, Cameron, Naomi, they also actually were collectively known as Funkadactyls, and Brie and Nikki were healed that time, and it was just was what it is, and Natalia actually locked in the sharpshooter, and Brie Bella only had a one thing that was locking into the kind of wrist lock, and she was just doing that very high amount of control segment that this match had. But Natalia picked up the victory with a sharpshooter. Nothing to say about this match. A very weak match in this show, way weaker than the Cody Rhodes Damian Sandow match. We get into the big things, man, and that is CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar. I mean, think about this, man. This at this time, CM Punk is the hottest topic, and I am very sure that he's gonna be in the AEW. And if it's not gonna happen, it's a major disappointment that AEW is gonna create. But at this time, if you see if CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar, as I said, I would have been my money's in for this match again, man. This match was so good, man. This match was not wrestling you expect. This was way above that. This was the story of Paul Heyman turning on CM Punk, and that's just not it. The way they actually produced the action into this ring and was and this match actually turned into a very nasty and very uncomfortable manner, I would say, and it was so hard to listen. I mean, I don't know if I was on to the full volume of the match, that's why, or the voices were kind of I mean, I don't know if they piped it or something at that time. I don't expect that, man. They really did a great job. I mean, both of us, and see, Brock Lesnar made CM Punk look like a million bucks, man. And I can surely, without doubt, can say that Brock Lesnar is one of the wrestlers who is the one of the best sellers at this modern era. I would say that he's still not quit wrestling, I would say, and he's not there, but at this time I would say he's one of the best seller, and his matches looks like some kind of a disaster, some kind of earthquake is happening, and his matches are so different from the others, and people hate this matches, his 5 minute 6 minute matches. I do say that because we paying money and we are watching the main event, and then we are just seeing the 5 minute pay-per-view main event. I know that that still hurts, but when we see this match, man, when we see Brock Lesnar, he's built for that. He does the best, and never ever there's gonna be anyone like Brock Lesnar, and no one does like Brock Lesnar. And I mean, yeah. And as I said, talk a lot about Brock Lesnar. CM Punk, one of the very underdog at that time. He was a babyface, and CM Punk sold a lot, and very mix up of MMA style as well. So they had that MMA background as well that mixed up very well. And I'm really again saying I'm not be able to see this match again, surely, but this match I would have wanted to see this match again at some point in the future or something. Man, this match was so good, and this was very good, and lot of maneuvers, lot of spots, and lot of chair shots, camera armbar, and a kind of voice attempt by CM Punk as well. So this match to be called out, calling it this match would be a very hard point, because that's a difficult thing, and this is one of the match of the year contender that. Match of the year contender or the candidate that this match had, and the the last moment of this match was so good, and they had a this match could have been gone kind of either way kind of thing. And I didn't know the result actually. I actually didn't watch this pay-per-view for many years right now, and I didn't know about the result. I didn't look about the result, but I thought I had a slight feeling that maybe Brock Lesnar would be getting the victory. And there was a point where yeah, that was the result. Brock Lesnar got the victory here, and Heyman had his interference as well, and Heyman got Anaconda voice locked in as well. But a very emphatic and very nasty shot by Brock Lesnar onto the back of Punk, and then Brock Lesnar hoisted him off the mat and held him on his shoulders and delivered a devastating F5 into the chair, right onto the uh, jaw, I would say. He hit that, and that was it. Winner is Brock Lesnar. Great match, excellent match, I would say. Fantastic match, whatever, man. Spectacular match, and still really very uh, holds good to this day as well. And I don't know if this kind of match we would be able to see at this year's SummerSlam, because we don't see that. The only doubt, I mean, I can think about this, the Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg on the level, but Goldberg is not on the level of Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar, Goldberg is not on the level of Brock Lesnar. Is Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, people often compare them both, but they are way different in their wrestling style, and they both are powerhouse wrestler, and they both have a very small, minute minute of matches. But Brock Lesnar tells a story in the and tells a story in the ring, which is not a very true point for Goldberg, I would say. And I don't know why, man, but I do like Goldberg as well. I'm not a hater of Goldberg, but I do like what he had did in the business actually. So again, I do. Only thing I expected that is this match maybe could replicate, but nowhere in the level, man. This is impossible. And man, this was the penultimate, man. And we were expecting one more main event, and that was John Cena versus Daniel Bryan, and for the for the WWE Championship. Triple H was the guest referee, and after that we saw a mixed tag team match, which was kind of get into a the placement of this match wasn't very good. It would have been good like CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar, and then after that going into the main event, that would have been a main event kind of a setup. And they did place this match into a very awkward position. But when we see this match, this ain't a co-main event, you can say that. But whenever Biggie Langston and Dolph Ziggler were in the ring, they were fantastic. They're fantastic. Go watch this match. Avoid Caitlyn and AJ Lee, because they weren't very good, I would say. But whenever Dolph Ziggler and Biggie Langston had a tag, they were really good. And if they had this match as a singles match, that would have been very good, very good. And as I said, and this match was good. I mean, as a co-main event, as a position, as I said, wasn't very good. But this was very fast paced, and they had time constraints as well. That's why. But that made this match very fast paced and very interesting, very good, interesting and entertaining match, I would say, at that level, I would say. And Dolph Ziggler and Caitlyn picked up the victory, where Biggie was looking at the big ending, but WWE's Dolph Ziggler actually picked up the victory via zigzag. So that was the match, and we finally get into the main event for the WWE Championship match: John Cena versus Daniel Bryan, and the special guest referee was Triple H. And this was announced as a WWE title match, and they had the whole lot of whole I mean segment, and the opening video package that actually told the story very well. I wasn't very known about the story. I actually kind of forgot the bits and pieces. I don't very know about this, but when I saw this video package, it summed up very well. And that was one of the time where WWE did, and still they do it very well, but they don't do it like at that point when they did this, because this was a pretty long video package. They did release story kind of months and months back. And yeah, and very good video package that summed up the story very well. And John Cena versus Daniel Bryan. So this very highly anticipated match as well at that time. And John Cena actually handpicked the challenge, handpicked the challenge for the WWE Championship. That was Daniel Bryan, and people were all into Daniel Bryan's character, and he was very, very over in this match. And this point, Cena was getting sucked, and Cena was getting booed very lot of time. And looking at back and looking right now, man. I mean, fans really miss John Cena because they didn't know the value because of he was being shown up in every episode. That's like you don't know the value because you get it every week, and when something is gone off from you, you start to feel the value of that, and that's the same feeling that John Cena is getting right now. And Cena really told about in a kind of something that I read about that he didn't expect that this kind of a reaction, and man, it's really the good reaction that Cena had got at the Money in the Bank 2021 pay per view at the end of Roman Reigns retaining the championship. That was great, man. That was excellent. And getting into this match, man, this match was a very good wrestling match, and I would say this match. I'm not nitpicking or something. This match I mean, this match got into a very uh, got into a very lengthy match, I would say, because uh, I don't know. They worked out very well. They worked. They tried to. They very done a very well job, I would say. Kind of entertaining the match, kind of putting into the focus on the match. But this was getting into the control segments here and there for John Cena, and John Cena had a very big challenge in a kayfabe manner. I am speaking, and he actually had a proven that he was very comfortable to hang on with the. Daniel Bryan's technical wrestling. We know how good of very well of a wrestler. I mean, wrestling is of Daniel Bryan. He's very good at mat-based wrestling. And if you don't know, go watch his Ring of Honor matches. You would be mesmerized. And that's the understatement that's not a very correct word. That's a one word I'm saying. You just go watch it if you don't know. But really, man, this was second match of the year candidate, and this pay per view, we can say, ended up like a very pretty successful pay per view, if you see, because two biggest matches that delivered it to a full, very excellent in manner. And Christian versus Alberto Del Rio was also good, and other matches as well, they weren't very bad as we think so. Only match that was bad, I would say, was kind of in a bad category was the Natalia Brie Bella match. And this match had a lot of as I said, very a lot of technical wrestling, as I said. And Cena did pretty very well, and they were targeting the joint and worked it out, series of hard kicks, and they did have 1,000 finishes played out in this match, because at the finishing point of this match, they were trying for the submissions and all, both submissions, the yes lock and the STF and all. But John Cena was going for the attitude adjustment, but the running knee come out of nowhere, and it was a very surprising kind of victory. Because when I saw this match, I had a feeling that, man, this wasn't kind of a very surprising ending. And I'm not saying it was a bad ending, because it surprised us. At this point, you see that in the long pay per views, kicking out of the finish is kind of a common thing. But they didn't kind of oversell or overdid the match, I would say. It certainly got into a high point, and that would have been a kind of a reason where they thought about that they would finish this match. But man, nothing to say about much of a negative here, because it's just a small thing. I said this match was very great and very excellent and fantastic match. And I enjoyed this match, and I mean, I enjoyed CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar match more, because John Cena, this match actually, Daniel Bryan, John Cena, I actually watched this match last year. So I had some here and there. I thought about, oh, this is gonna happen. So I had some kind of in my mind. So it wasn't a very fresh kind of thing. But for me, match of the night was CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar, and second match certainly would be this. And for the special appreciation, I would say Christian versus Alberto Del Rio. really. And that was it, guys. And this was the SummerSlam 2013 pay-per-view review. And what are your thoughts about this pay-per-view, man? I mean, as much as people say this wasn't the best pay-per-view, like going into after 2014, 2015, and all. I mean, I can certainly say that people didn't appreciate it very well. But if you have time, man, go check it out. This pay per view. This was a very well put show, I would say. And the two matches, man, that really stole the entire show, and that really you can't forget you the entire thing that you have saw here, because you will not remember any other matches, because that was the effect of those matches, both matches. And that was it, guys. After the match, was the interesting part, which we didn't get into. And the show was not getting into the end, and Triple H was celebrating with Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, I mean John Cena. Daniel Bryan had shook their hand. And then we got Triple H having putting the hands up above of Daniel Bryan. And then we got streamers coming out from the sky, pyro exploded, and we had a long shot. And that was the time Randy Orton's music played, and the fans erupted at that time. And he was the Money in the Bank briefcase holder at that time. And he kind of teased the first time. And we had known that, we have seen this segment ton of times in all over social media. One of the shocking Money in the Bank cash in. And one of the turn that Triple H turn that we didn't think about, because they really built Triple H as a very well baby face at that time, and fans really didn't expected that. Even though maybe because they had a history, maybe some fans could have known about that. But Triple H delivered the pedigree, and the wrestling world and the fans actually erupted into that. And Daniel Bryan Orton entered into the ring, and he entered the game. The briefcase, Triple H turned into an evil guy, and he says, ring the bell. And Orton captured the title by doing nothing. He just rolled him over and pinned Bryan to end the fairy tale story of Daniel Bryan at that pay per view, which was, if you see this ending, that's a really sad thing. And that's very very kind of not a very happiness kind of a way that fans actually left from that ring. But it isn't someone who cashed like I mean, Randy Orton cashed the ring, and there was cheers as well. There were not only boos, there was cheers as well when he became the champion. But I really hated. I mean, in the storyline, I'm saying that. And but they really shook us, man. They really shook us. And uh, going and watching that thing, and we in the hindsight, we know that it's gonna happen, but we really think that it's not gonna happen. It's just going to end, kind of a that feeling. And man, that was a good storytelling. And from that way, we saw build up for the Triple H versus Daniel Bryan story, ending up in the WrestleMania 30 main event as well. Triple threat main event against the Batista and Randy Orton, and CM Punk finally dethroning, and the two of the biggest superstars getting the victory and capturing the WWE Championship. And that was the story that ended in WrestleMania 30. And that time, long-term storytelling, man, was very good. And that didn't actually clicked it with the Roman Reigns storyline, where they had the authority storyline, same kind of storyline where they played it all. And fans didn't accepted that. So that's another point of discussion. So anyway, I don't want to end this show in a bad mood or something. So this was the show, guys. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What was your favorite match? What of the most loved match in the SummerSlam 2013 pay-per-view? And what pay-per-view you want to see next, you want to review? Because next review is gonna be on SummerSlam 2017. And and post that. If you have any recommendations, you can tell me in the comment section below, or you can have DM me onto the Twitter account, or you can wherever. I mean, you can I have posted as well this for the recommendation for the SummerSlam pay-per-view. So if you have any SummerSlam pay-per-view want to have me to review, so please kindly tell me in the comments wherever possible. So that's it, guys. Before we end this episode, please do like, share, subscribe, and to my channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one, guys. Until then, be safe, stay energetic, and peace.